Hi there. All right, we're going to be learning about E. coli today. How exciting. I just did my first recording and we were at 13 minutes, so hopefully I'm going to be able to get this one in 10 minutes. All right, so we are going to be going over a couple of different things. I even added history in there. We have transmission, we have prevention, a couple of fun things just important to know about our friend here, E. coli. So we have our pronunciation. How fun is that? Um, it was named after our friend here, Theodore. So Theodore actually took his own fecal sample when he was positive for E. coli, and he did gram staining techniques, and that was when he was able to find out that he had E. coli and that E. coli was gram negative and anaerobic rod bacteria. So as you can see here over in our photo, we have our little purple positive rod bacteria friend. Um, And E. coli can affect all different types of mammals. So we got humans, dogs, cats, even hamsters and guinea pigs. And the reason why E. coli does stain that purple color that you saw in that photo back there is because in that outer cell membrane there are lipopolysaccharides that stain purple during the iodine staining, during that gram staining. So here we have our different strains. So it's kind of comparable to the different herpes strains, the HHV strains. Different for the different regions, also kind of the different type you have. So if you have it in your gastrointestinal your tract, or if you have it in your urinary tract, depending on that. All right, so we got some history here. Our little friend was not officially named till 1982, and it was first found in America when people were having backyard cookouts and eating uncooked hamburger meat. It is found everywhere around the world except for Antarctica because of those cold temperatures. It just can't withstand it. But in the United States, 265,000 people are diagnosed every single year with E. coli poisoning, and with that, there are 100 deaths, unfortunately. And these are numbers from the Department of Health and Human Resources here in America. As well, too, that the stats for animals are unknown because there are just so many different places that do the testing. So the signs and symptoms also kind of depend on where the bacteria is localized. Most of the time in humans, it is localized in the gastrointestinal system, but it can be in the urinary system. So normally that comes with fever either way, dehydration. You'll usually see stomach cramps, vomiting, diarrhea. This can cause you to lose appetite and have anorexia. It being localized in the urinary system, you will be seeing burning, frequent urination, even if it's in small amounts. All right, so diagnostics, same thing. You can either do it with a fecal sample or a urinary sample, just kind of depending on where it's at. It'll usually be sent out to a culture and then go from there. They'll usually do gram staining. They'll spread it out here, as you can see on the EMB plate. E. coli has a very, very distinct positive where it shines green. Um, with food, you can test food. They have to do food testing just to make sure food's being kept clean so that we're not getting it through our food as well. So they have to take samples of the food and get bacterial samples from them. So what's happening internally? Super fun. So upon exposure to oxygen, the expression of enzymes essential for the respiration increases. So the E. coli is essentially able to adjust the respiratory enzyme level that it fits its environmental circumstances pretty much and helps it grow. And unfortunately, that does cause damage to the DNA, proteins, and lipids inside of you. With that, different things go on internally. So your small intestine will get inflamed, it will have a fever and be quite painful. You will also get some mucus that might come out in the diarrhea, hemorrhagic lesions. So that's where the blood and the diarrhea comes from. Um, that's on the surface of the gastrointestinal wall. So the fibrin on the abdominal wall, unfortunately, it's a protein that coats the cells and actually clots the blood and impedes blood flow. So it can lead to necrosis of the intestines, as well as death of the liver and spleen, and that can lead to sepsis. All right, transmission. So this all starts with our animals here, as you can see in the photo. So they ingest a pathogen. It'll either go from fecal route onto our food or from us just eating the bacteria from their meat that hasn't been cooked all the way thoroughly. So as long as you're cooking your food, washing your fruits and veggies, making sure that your yogurts, your milks, all of that has been pasteurized properly, then you should be fine. All right, treatment. So there's a couple different ways that you can go here. The main one that you should always aim for is to restore the fluid balance. So drinking water, but you're also losing a lot of fluid from your mouth and from the back end or your urinary system. So with that, you usually take anti-nausea, anti-diarrhea, and then they'll usually, if you have a urinary tract infection, they'll give you medicine for that as well to keep you from having the frequent urination and the burning. Non-medical treatment there, restricting your activity, making sure that you're resting, keeping warm, also making sure that you're just drinking those fluids. All right, so for our neonates, our elderly, and our immunocompromised, that's usually more the life-threatening side of it if they don't get medical treatment. Now, for our youth, our adolescents, and adults here, they can usually bounce back quite well. It doesn't take as long. So incubation period can be up to 16 days because you are shedding for 7 to 9 of those days. Now, it's not for sure what 7 to 9 days during those 16 days it's actually happening. That's why we say 16 days just to play it safe. All right, so it can affect you quite frequently. You're going to have sudden bathroom urges, abdominal pains. It's going to infect pretty much your day-to-day life, and it does affect those around you. It even can spread to your dogs and cats. So that's a good example of this would be if you're going camping with your dog and you do have E. coli poisoning, and let's say you take a dump by a tree and your dog decides that it smells good and wants to go take a bite of that, well, it can be transmitted over to them. So current research, right now the University of Maryland's actually doing research about a non-diarrhea strain of E. coli that does live in the gastrointestinal tract, and it can lead to new treatments for E. coli, so that's really awesome. The next three are pretty much just constantly updating their statistics, their research. They are very involved in the research there just because it's such a public safety concern. Our case study, how fun. It's my mom. Not fun for her, though. So she was diagnosed with E. coli poisoning 2 summers ago. She's a medical interpreter at a hospital, so this did impact her pretty big deal. She wasn't able to work because her patients are immunocompromised and the people around her are as well. So she can't spread that to any of them. Her fecal sample was sent to the lab, and she was experiencing fevers, diarrhea, vomiting, loss of appetite, even hot flashes as well. And then her treatment was rehydration and medication. So they gave her an antimicrobial and an anti-nausea just because it was so intense. All right, last but not least, we have our prevention here. So no one wants E. coli. So make sure you're washing your hands. Make sure you're cooking your meat good. And as you see in our picture, you can use a thermometer. Make sure your meat's getting cooked all the way fully. Make sure you're washing your fruits and veggies all the way. No one wants to eat some poo-poo that's on a veggie. Even if you're cooking your own fruits or if you're growing your own fruits and veggies and you think, no, my fruits and veggies are clean, well, you don't know what bugs have transferred that bacteria. So you just have to make sure you're cleaning everything, cleaning your hands, and making sure your food's cooked all the way. Um, and even as well as going with your dogs, making sure that whenever you're cleaning up their fecal from your yard, that you're wearing a glove or making sure that at least none of it is getting onto your skin. And just making sure you're eating at safe and clean places. And then for my references here, we have 3 textbook references, 2 online references, and all my photo references are located under the pictures.